Hi viewers, welcome to Bosco Campus Vision. I am Darshana. Hope all of you heard my previous session. Today we are going to discuss about how a poet should create or construct a plot. In Poetics, Aristotle makes 7 remarks about how a poet should create or construct a plot. So let us discuss in detail each points, these 7 remarks. The first point is the poet should visualize the action of his drama as clearly as possible. This will help him to spot or identify and avoid inconsistencies. That means the poet should visualize his drama, that is the action of his drama. Second point is the poet should try acting out the events as he writes about. If the poet or the writer himself can experience those emotions what he is writing about, he will be able to express those emotions very clearly. That is the second point. That is, the poet should try to act. The poet should try acting out the events as he writes about. That means try to express those character or to enter deep into the character. The poet should enter deep into the character, negate his own identity. That means if the poet or the writer, he can himself experience those emotions he is writing about, he will be able to express those emotions very clearly. Then the third point is the poet should first outline the overall plot of the play. First try to create the skeleton of the play and then only organize it or flesh it out with the episodes. And these episodes are generally quite brief in tragedy. In the case of tragedy, those episodes are quite brief. But in the case of epic poetry, it can be very long. For example, Aristotle reduces the entire plot of the Odyssey to 3 sentences, suggesting that everything else in the poem is episode. Then the fourth point is every play consists of decis. Decis means complication. Complication means tying the knot or and looses or denouement. That means untying the knot. So every plot consists of decis and looses. Decis means complication, that is tying the knot, and looses means denouement or untying the knot. So decis is everything leading up to the moment of peripeteia. Peripeteia we already discussed in the previous session. That is reversal. Reversal happened in the course of in the development of the plot. That is from the good to bad, or from bad to good, or from fortune to misfortune, or misfortune to fortune. So decis means from the beginning up to the moment of peripeteia, that reversal. So decis is everything that is leading up to the moment of peripeteia, that is tying the knot, complication. And looses is everything from the peripeteia onwards, that is from that moment up to the end of the plot. That is untying the knot, denouement happened. So this is the fourth point that Aristotle discussed. That is, every plot consists of decis and looses. Then the fifth point is there are 4 distinct kinds of tragedy, and the poet should aim at bringing out all the important parts of the kind he chooses. First, there is a complex tragedy made up of both elements, peripeteia and anagnorisis. Second, the tragedy of suffering, that is events like wounding, murder, torturing, etc. Third, the tragedy of character, and fourth, the tragedy of spectacle. So here Aristotle insists that the poet should aim at bringing out all the important parts of the kind, that is, which kind of tragedy he chooses, the poet should express, or to bringing out all the aspects or all the important elements regarding that particular kind he chooses. And the sixth point is the poet should write about focused incidents and not about a whole epic story. Yes, the tragedy or the plot should be based on focused incidents, not about whole epic story. For example, a tragedy could not possibly tell the entire story of the Iliad in any kind of satisfying detail, but it can pick out and elaborate upon individual episodes within the Iliad. That means the poet should write about focused incidents. The plot should be based on focused incidents, not upon not about the whole epic story. The last one is the chorus should be treated like an actor, and the choral songs should be an integral part of the story. That is, in the introductory part itself, when we discussed about the definition of the tragedy, I already mentioned about chorus, that is, the pleasurable accessories appeared in between the development of the plot and the course of the plot. So, chorus means is a group of members entered into the scene and they maybe sung a song or comment upon certain events, etc. For example, in Antigone, Sophocles' Antigone, we readers can trace the presence of chorus in between the development of the plot, and they sung different songs in the course of the action regarding the events that happened in the play. So, according to Aristotle, the chorus should be treated like an actor and the choral song should be an integral part of the story. So, these are the 7 points that Aristotle insists in Poetics regarding how a poet should create or construct a plot. Next, we are going to discuss about thought and diction, another elements of tragedy. Aristotle defines thought as everything that is effected by means of language. So, thought of an agent is everything he or she expresses verbally, what he or she shares in common with everyone else, and what can be expressed clearly and directly to other people. So, this sharing includes persuading, reasoning, and arousing emotion, among other things. So, we readers or spectators might understand it as the impression an agent consciously tries to make on others. What we might infer from his or her unspoken behavior. So, it is more a matter of intellectual aspect. It is more a matter of character. Then, in the introductory part, we already discussed in the definition of tragedy that arousal of emotions. Aristotle mentions the arousal of pity and fear as the main purpose of tragedy. And he claims that the tragic poet must aim to arouse such emotions in the audience with the help of or by the means of the plot. In discussing thought, he mentions that agents may arouse emotions in one another by means of language. And thought is generally exhibited in speeches that enunciate general truths. Thus, when agents try to prove or disprove a point, to arouse emotion, or to inflate or deflate a matter, they are exhibiting thought. And thought is closely linked to rhetoric. Next, Aristotle divides the subject of diction into 8 parts: letter, syllable, conjunction, article, noun, verb, case, and speech, etc. We all are very familiar with all these elements because we all are use these elements in our modern usage. We should note that Aristotle is concerned less with written language and more with the spoken language. When we consider Poetics, chapters 19 to 22 are almost the least interesting part of the Poetics. So many criticisms are arising because Aristotle never mentions in detail regarding the other elements of tragedy, that is melody and spectacle. He never mentions in detail. Then chapter 21 of Poetics is concerned with the structure and uses of the noun. Then he discusses or he speaks of metaphor. That is, Aristotle distinguishes 4 ways metaphor can be used. So when we consider the matter of Poetics, so many critics criticized these 2 chapters and they consider these 2 chapters are not relevant. They criticized that these 2 chapters are not written by Aristotle because of its least importance or because of its least relevance. Let us see how Aristotle distinguishes metaphor, its usage. Then Aristotle speaks of metaphor as if it were an extra element that can be added to whatever is being expressed on a literal level. He values metaphor because it can raise poetry above the normal level of everyday speech, but worries that too much use of metaphor can inhibit clarity. Then he distinguishes 4 ways metaphor can be used. First one is the genus to species relationship, where a more general term is used instead of a specific term. For example, here stands my ship, where stand is a more general way of saying anchored. Second point is the species to genus relationship, where a more specific term is used in place of a general term. For example, truly 10,000 good deeds has Ulysses wrought, where 10,000 is a specific term representing the more general a large number. Then the third one, the species to species relationship, where one specific term replaces another. Last one, metaphor from analogy, which consists of substitutions between X to Y type relationships. For example, old age is to life as evening is to day. So we can speak metaphorically about the old age of the day or the evening of life. So these are the 4 ways Aristotle distinguishes that metaphor. 4 ways metaphor can be used in a language. Hope all of you understand this session. Thank you. See you again.